everyone. Super Marcey here, joined by my partner in crime, Bede. Hello, Bede. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Marcy. How are you?
Doing all right, doing all right. And we are here to do a video review for the new release film, Wrath of Man, from director Guy Ritchie.
Indeed, it's always an event when Guy Ritchie releases a new film, and this being kind of one of the only few films out at the moment that it's well, at least in some parts of the world, is actually only playing in cinemas rather than
Yeah,
simultaneously being in cinemas or on video on demand. So this is a pretty huge occasion
yeah,
for this
yeah,
film.
for sure. And this sort of just came out of nowhere. I think I only saw the trailer pop out last month or something.
Yeah, well, I think I've heard of this film for a little while now because I know he started shooting it probably maybe probably nearly 2 years ago, but it's only just come out now. It probably would have came out last year, but given the whole
Yeah,
pandemic and that, they kept probably decided to put postpone it until it was safer enough
yeah.
for cinemas to open up again.
Yeah, I actually had no idea about this film until I saw the trailer and I was like, oh wow. I was very surprised there was a new Guy Ritchie film. And reteaming with Jason Statham.
Indeed, and this is the first time they've worked together since 2005's Revolver. So
Yeah.
again, the finally getting to see uh, both Ritchie and Statham just back together working on a film.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I was very excited to check this film out, and it does differ a little bit from some of Guy Ritchie's other sort of crime films, and we'll discuss that in more detail momentarily. Do you want to give us a quick synopsis of the plot from IMDb?
Indeed,
Because
indeed,
where else?
indeed. But of course, the film's directed by Guy Ritchie,
Yes.
who co-wrote the screenplay with Ivan Atkinson's and Marn Davies, and it's a remake of a 2004 film called Cash Truck. And of
Hmm.
course, it stars Jason Statham, obviously, as well as Holt McCallany, Jeffrey Donovan, Josh Hartnett, Chris Riley, Laz Alonso, Raul Castillo, Diobia Opari. I probably butchered her name. Please forgive me. Eddie Marsan and Scott Eastwood. And the plot summary for this film is the plot follows H, a cold and mysterious character working at a cash truck company responsible for moving hundreds of millions of dollars around Los Angeles each week. Now, that plot synopsis is very vague, and I think
Yes.
this, at least for me, and I don't know about you, this is definitely one of those films that I would say is probably best to try to go in not knowing
Mm.
much as possible because, if
Yeah.
anything, that synopsis only really covers just the first half of the film.
Yeah, and I think it's better to know as little as possible when going into this film, which I didn't really know much about it. I had just seen the trailer, which didn't really give too much away.
Indeed, and I guess what's interesting about this film for me and why I really liked it as much as I did
Mm.
is that even though it does have quite the hallmarks of like a
Mm.
lot of Guy Ritchie's more crime film
Yeah.
related work, because to me there's two types of Jason Statham. There's the crime film Jason Statham with films like Lock, Stock, Two
Mm.
Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Roller, and his previous film The Gentleman.
Mm.
Then of course there's Blockbuster
Mm.
Guy Ritchie, which is like Aladdin, the Sherlock Holmes
Mm.
films, The Man from Uncle, and uh, King Arthur. So
Mm.
there's two sides, and this is him back in sort of crime territory, and especially after sort of, I would say in a way making a really good sort of comeback with The Gentleman last year,
Mm.
which was kind of back into that sort of mold that everyone sort of knows him for.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this film to me was it does have the hallmarks of all those kind of crime films that we know and love from Guy Ritchie when he's like firing on all cylinders. But I think what makes this film different is most of those films are more comedies.
Mm.
Like, but this one is definitely a much more serious and even at times dark film.
Yeah.
And while he still has those sort of elements he's known for, like the sort of the memorable characters, the really sort of memorable and witty and unique dialogue, and also the action set pieces. But I think the tone of this story is far more dramatic than we have seen from him. And it's interesting because Guy Ritchie, to me, like, he's always been a filmmaker who isn't afraid to kind of do a lot of humor in his films. Like, most of his filmography, most of his films have humor in them. But this is him kind of, I guess, kind of stepping out of the box a little bit and applying the trademarks that he's well known for, but doing it for a much more kind of serious film.
Yeah, this definitely was a serious film. It doesn't have, like, the quirks and humor that we're used to with Guy Ritchie, especially when he does, like, the crime film. So that was, that took me aback a little bit, but I actually really liked it. I think that him taking this approach to something actually really works in his favor. And I think he can do, like, both. Because I think Lock, Stock, Snatch, The Gentleman, those, I think, are great, great films. And, him stepping out of that to do something a lot more serious, I think it works really well also. And I actually had no idea this was a remake. So I have not seen the original film. I've already forgotten the title.
Cash Truck.
Cash Truck.
Which I think was the working title for this film for a little while until they settled on Wrath of Man.
Yeah, which I quite like the title, Wrath of Man. And
definitely.
Yeah, like, I actually really liked how the film starts off and we're introduced to a very mysterious character with, as he's called, H, which is Jason Statham, as he takes a job with this cash truck company. And we get to see that this company had previously had a robbery and someone was killed during it. And as it progresses, we see that this is a bit of a common occurrence, that people try to rob these trucks because they have, lots of money and valuables. So we see Jason Statham's character ends up in one of those situations, and then how he deals with it, which completely sort of, whoa, you're like, okay. And then it changes things where it goes back. It gives us a bit of his backstory, but it also gives us other backstories. And then we, it leads us down the path of finding out more about this original robbery that the film starts off with. And I really liked that. It really kept me on the edge of my seat. I was left guessing, and I was very much engaged in the film.
Oh yeah, definitely, me as well. And I think that's what I did like, how it sort of played with the structure of its story, showing us different perspectives of not just showing Statham's character of H, but also other perspectives from other characters within the story. And I think Statham, does, this is definitely, Statham in his wheelhouse, this sort of tough guy who, and he does a great job as per usual. This is a kind of role that fits him like a glove. But it's also interesting because this is him doing a bit more of a serious kind of character in this one.
And it works really well. I think we're used to him being more of like a playful type character, whether it's in, say, like the Fast and Furious films,
or the Expendables, or
the Expendables, or Snatch.
Yep.
But him taking on something far more serious, I think it really works for him. And this character was just meant for him. Like, I couldn't really see anyone else playing it, and I think he does an excellent job here. And I also really, really liked all the supporting cast, and it was so good to see Josh Hartnett back in a movie.
Indeed. And
can't remember the last time I saw him in something.
Yeah, well, I know he's been mainly working in television over the last few years, because he was like one of the leads of Penny Dreadful. But I haven't seen him in an actual film, like a big sort of high-profile film, in quite a long time. Probably the last big one I can remember seeing him in was probably 30 Days of Night.
Yeah, I was thinking it was like that, or, he had the sort of minor role in Sin City,
Yeah.
sort of around that time, but I really don't. I mean, he might have been in stuff I just never saw him in anything, and he was such like a big name in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then he kind of just dropped off a little bit. And it was great to see him back, and I thought he was great in this as well.
Yeah, and it's a very like it's a small like sort of a small supporting character, but how the sort of characters developed is really interesting, and a, he's sort of and it has and he's very well rounded as a character, and he does such a really good job with it. And also, like you said, other supporting characters who I really enjoyed. I mean, Holt McCallany, who is great in the role of a Bullet, and also Jeffrey Donovan, who plays the role of Jackson. But I would have to say, probably one of my favorite performances in the film outside of those and Statham's is, surprisingly, and this will be a shock to a few people out there, Scott Eastwood, who, like, I know a lot of people kind of always mixed on Scott Eastwood, because I personally have no problems with the guy. I've quite enjoyed him in a lot of the films I've seen, but I know some people think he's like too much of a pretty boy, or he's not. He's kind of a bit of a bland actor, but I think in this film, Guy Ritchie casts him against type, and he gets to kind of play a character who is unlike anything else he's played before, and he actually plays one who's incredibly intimidating, but also is very subtly unhinged as well.
I thought he was fantastic in this role, and I actually didn't realize he was in this movie, so when I saw his name, I'm like, oh shit, okay. And no, I thought he was great. I really liked what he brought to the character and how he played it. And I think this will probably change some people's opinions of him if they're a bit mixed. But again, I've always thought he was fine. And yeah, he is very pretty. There's no doubt about that.
And he looks so much like his dad. It's just scary.
He does, like in those younger years, definitely. And I hope he has a strong career ahead of him, and I would like him to take more challenging and different roles.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. And I think something like this would actually, given how good he is in this film, I think would, like you said, it will kind of change people's perceptions of him as an actor, because based on this film, and he definitely has talent. And I think if other filmmakers in that see his work here, I think they'll say, we can give him much more interesting creative roles rather than kind of, the straight man kind of characters in other big blockbuster films and that.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually really liked Holt as Bullet. I've been a fan of his for quite a long time. He shows up in so much, and he's always great. And I really liked him here. I don't know what it was. I felt he just brought something to the character of Bullet, and there was definitely a lot of good chemistry that he had with everyone else, which made it really work.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I liked about the film, is like this is little company and everyone sort of bounces off each other really well. Like Paige sort of comes in and he's sort of like the outsider, and they all kind of look at him very suspiciously and all that. But you can definitely tell, like, between this sort of group who work at this cash truck place, that they do have a camaraderie between them all. And they are characters who, like, will say things like that, not quite PC, so, but they sort of feel comfortable around each other, that they can, pardon my French, shoot the shit with each other. Yeah. And because that's how comfortable they are as a group. And of course, this guy comes in who's new, is they're sort of a bit wary of him as first, but eventually, like circumstances that happen in the film, like Statham kind of fits into the group as well. But again, that's only just a small part of a much larger story.
Yeah, for sure. This was a very big surprise. I really, really enjoyed this film quite a lot. So I definitely recommend it. It comes highly recommended from me, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely. I would say it's up there as probably one of my personal favorite Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I would even say it's probably my favorite of his since Sherlock Holmes. Even though he has done quite a few films in between that I've quite enjoyed, like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I think, is a pretty underrated and fun little spy film. But I would say, but I would say this is like legit great. Like this is a great movie. It's very well directed. It's intense. It's surprising. Guy Ritchie really directs the shit out of this film, and it's really well written. And also the action set pieces, particularly in the third act, are really well done and very intense as well, which was really surprising.
Yeah, the action is top notch. It's fantastic. I really liked the approach to it, how it was shot, how we see everything. And yeah, there's a lot of intensity, especially in the third act where things get amped up a lot. I really liked that. And yeah, this would definitely be, I think, one of the best films he's done. And I actually really, really loved The Gentleman. I thought that was a lot of fun. And it's good to see that he followed it up with something, quite different, but still within that same sort of crime-ish genre.
Yeah, definitely, and I can't wait to see, because I know he's already just pretty much finished another film now, and it did have a title, but I think it's just going untitled at the moment. But again, he's reteaming with Statham for it, and also Josh Hartnett's going to be appearing in that one as well.
Yeah, so whatever he's got next, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've always been a fan of Guy Ritchie. I do enjoy what he brings to the table, and he does have quite a diverse filmography, which I think is great for anyone, really. He doesn't keep making the same kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I just looked up what the film is. His next film, it's called Five Eyes. It's a spy film.
Okay.
And besides Statham and Josh Hartnett, it also is going to be starring Audrey Plaza, Carrie Elwes, and Hugh Grant.
Oh.
As well.
Okay, that's a good
And it's
cast.
pretty much and it's got a lot of the same behind-the-scenes team as The Gentleman and Wrath of Man as well. So we'll definitely
one to look forward to.
Exactly.
So my rating for Wrath of Man would be 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was that damn good. What about you?
I would say about 4 out of 5 for me. I think it's a really strong, really compelling action film that, again, like I said, is equally kind of intense, surprising, and it's just one that I was like you. I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I had a feeling I was going to enjoy it anyway, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Like I thought it'd just be a fun little, Jason Statham action film, but yeah, it ended up being way better than expected, and I really dug it so much.
Yeah, it's Guy Ritchie sort of going for that heat type of
definitely. There's definitely a heat influence in this film, but at the same time, it has a lot of Guy Ritchie's personality.
I mean, it's still very much its own thing, but it definitely has that. It's the same kind of like feel, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think safe to say we both enjoyed the film and we both highly recommend it. So check it out, guys.
Definitely. I highly recommend it. It's currently out in cinemas in Australia, and I assume it probably is in other parts of the world as well. So, and if it's safe to do so, definitely go out and check it in the cinema. It's worth a watch.
Yeah, and if it isn't safe to go see it at the cinema, wait till it's available on VOD or Blu-ray or whichever, because it is worth your time for sure.
Exactly.
And that's a wrap on our Wrath of Man review. Please check us out at supermarcey.com for all of our amazing content. And until next time, I've been Super and Bede's been terrible.
Yeah, indeed I have. See everybody.
Catch you later.
Bye.